ever get that feeling that, what you see on the surface,
Yeah.
it doesn't quite match what's really going on underneath?
Oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
a shiny apple that's actually rotten inside.
Exactly that. Okay, let's unpack this because today we're doing a deep dive into a story that's really all about that gap, the gap between how things look and how they are.
Right. And we've got this fascinating excerpt. It's from an ancient text from Thailand called Dhammapadaṭṭhakathā.
Okay?
Eh, This story, it's actually told by the Buddha himself. It gives us this, well, timeless look at hypocrisy, and
Right.
what really makes up someone's character.
So let's set the scene. The Buddha is at the Kukara Hall, and he starts telling this story. And the main focus, it's on this pretty dramatic situation happening right at the gates of a city called Vasali.
Yeah, there's this Brahmin there, and he's making some uh, pretty wild demands.
Wild is right, and his method is intense.
It really is. What's fascinating right away is how extreme he's being. He's literally hanging upside down from a tree, a kukuda tree. Puts himself in a really precarious spot.
Right, dangling there, head down, and he starts making threats. He wants 100 kapachas, that's like an old currency, yeah.
That's right. And a female attendant.
Okay. And also some red oxen. The text just says red oxen.
Yep, unspecified red oxen. And his leverage, his threat, is that he'll jump.
He's going to jump.
Yeah, and he claims if they don't give him what he wants, his fall will somehow, destroy the city, turn Vasali into a non-city, whatever that means.
Wow. Talk about a dramatic approach.
It really highlights how fear can work, doesn't it? The people in the town, they see this whole spectacle, and they're worried. They're worried about the consequences.
So they just give in?
Pretty much. They agree to his demands. They're reacting out of fear, fear of this vague threat, a city becoming a non-city.
And this wasn't quick either. It says monks actually saw him like this, hanging upside down both when he came in and when he went out of the city gates.
So he kept this up for a while. It wasn't just a momentary stunt.
Yeah, the text mentions the townsfolk were worried about him falling from early morning. This must have gone on for hours.
It does raise an interesting point, though, about how easily a really dramatic display can, cloud people's judgment.
Totally. The visual of him hanging there must have been so striking, it probably just amplified their anxiety, made them more willing to cave without really thinking if his threat even made sense.
Exactly. So anyway, the Brahmin gets what he demanded.
He comes down.
He comes down, takes his loot, the money, the attendant, the oxen, presumably, and off he goes. But here's where it gets really interesting for this story.
Okay.
As he's leaving the monastery grounds, some monks spot him. And they notice how he's behaving now.
How's that?
Well, it's the contrast that's really telling. Compared to his big dramatic act earlier, the text says the monks saw him acting like a cow.
Like a cow? What does that imply? Just sort of...
Yeah, maybe relaxed, maybe even a bit greedy or undignified. He thought he'd gotten away with it. The deception was over.
Ah, so the mask slipped the moment he thought he was safe.
Precisely. And the monks, they'd seen the whole performance earlier.
Yeah.
They realized, okay, this guy was totally faking it.
So they confront him.
Well, they go up to him, they ask him, hey, did you get what you were after? And of course, he confirms it. Yep, got everything.
And it's the stark difference, right? The crazy public show versus this, casual, maybe even crude behavior afterwards.
Exactly that. And that difference prompts the monks to go tell the Buddha. They report the whole incident inside the monastery.
So the Buddha hears this, and his take is, well, it goes deeper.
Much deeper. He tells the monks, look, this Brahmin, it's not just now that he's being deceitful. He says he was a deceitful thief in the past, too.
So it's a pattern.
Presented absolutely as a pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Something that keeps repeating across time.
And the Buddha adds something else, doesn't he, about wisdom.
Yeah, he makes this interesting point. He says that while the Brahmin could maybe fool, foolish people now, he wouldn't have been able to deceive wise people in the past. It implies that real wisdom, true insight, can see through these superficial acts.
Okay, I see. And naturally the monks are like, tell us more.
Right, they're curious. They ask him to recount this past incident. So the Buddha does. He shares a story from a previous life.
Okay, so now we're flashing back.
Exactly. In this past life, we meet a character described as a deceitful ascetic. He was living near a village in the Kasi kingdom, relying on the villagers for food and shelter.
An ascetic. So someone who looked outwardly religious or spiritual?
Precisely.
Yeah.
Looked the part.
Yeah.
And there was one family in particular who really looked after him. Very generous.
How generous.
So generous they gave him the same amount of food they gave their own children each day. And they'd even save a portion for him for the next morning.
Wow, that's real trust. Real commitment.
It really emphasizes the kindness he was shown. But, well, you can probably guess. This kindness is about to be betrayed.
Uh-oh.
One evening, this family gets hold of some lizard meat. Maybe it was a delicacy, maybe just what they could find. They cook it up really well.
And they save some for him.
Yep. Thinking of the ascetic, they put aside a portion for his meal the next day.
Okay, here it comes. This is where we see his true colors, I bet.
You got it. After he eats his share of the lizard meat the next day, he becomes, well, obsessed with the taste. Fixated.
Has to know what it was.
Exactly. He asks, finds out it's lizard meat, and then boom, greed just takes over completely.
What does he do?
It's quite calculated, actually. He's so focused on getting more of this lizard meat. He goes out begging, but not just for basic sustenance. He collects ghee, curds, condiments.
Like fancy stuff.
Yeah, all sorts of desirable things. Right. And he stores them up in his little leaf hut. His intention is pretty clear. He wants more lizard. He's preparing.
Preparing to hunt them himself.
Well, it sets up this crucial encounter. Not far from his hut, there lived a lizard king in a termite mound.
A lizard king, okay.
And this lizard king, apparently showing trust, maybe just out of habit, would regularly visit the ascetic. There was some kind of established interaction between them.
Oh, this is bad. The ascetic's greed is going to ruin this, isn't it?
Totally. One day, the ascetic, fully intending to kill the lizard king to get more meat.
No.
Yeah. He hides a stick nearby and then sits near the termite mound pretending to be asleep.
That's just treacherous. A real low blow.
Absolutely. But the lizard king, in this story, shows incredible wisdom, real awareness. As he starts to come out of the termite mound, he senses something's off.
He picks up on the bad vibes.
Exactly. He senses the ascetic's ill intent. Something feels wrong, so he instinctively starts to retreat back into the mound.
Smart lizard.
Very. The ascetic, realizing his prey is getting away, panics. He grabs the stick, throws it, trying desperately to hit the lizard king.
Does he hit him?
No, he misses. The lizard king makes it back safely inside the termite mound.
Phew. Okay, but does the lizard king just hide?
Oh no, this is where we get this really powerful moment. The lizard king, now safe, speaks to the ascetic from inside his mound.
What does he say?
He calls him out. He basically asks, what's the point of all your outer stuff? The matted hair, the deer hide, these symbols of being holy, if inside you're full of filth.
Wow. Direct hit.
He points out the hypocrisy. You're cleaning the outside, but the inside is still, dirty, defiled.
A really sharp critique, just cutting right through the performance.
Completely. But the ascetic, is he ashamed? Not a bit. He tries to lure the lizard king back out.
You're kidding. After just trying to kill him.
Not kidding. He starts promising him tasty food, rice porridge, oil, salt, plenty of long pepper. Basically trying to bribe him with the very things he'd collected earlier.
Unbelievable. What does the lizard king say to that?
His rejection is strong and very meaningful. He says, essentially, the more you talk, the more I want to run away from you.
Good for him.
And then he recites this really powerful verse. He talks about how much safer he feels in his termite mound, how the ascetic's offerings, even if they sound good, are actually harmful because of the intention behind them.
He sees the real danger isn't missing out on food, it's the inner corruption of the ascetic.
Exactly. The danger is the impurity hidden by the outward show.
Does he say anything else?
Yeah, the Lizard King adds that for a long time, he'd actually mistaken the ascetic for a genuine holy man, a true recluse.
He'd been fooled, too, initially.
Right. But this attempted attack, this act of violence, revealed the ascetic's true impure nature. And he questions again, what's the value of all those external symbols? The hair, the hide, for someone who's corrupt inside. It's a total dismantling of the ascetic's false image.
It's a powerful lesson. What you show isn't always what you are. It's what's inside that counts.
That's the core of it.
So, bringing it back to the Buddha telling this story, how does he connect the dots?
Right. So the Buddha then reveals the identities. He says that deceitful ascetic from the past story, that was the very same Brahmin causing trouble at the gates of Vatthu.
The same guy.
The same consciousness carrying that trait forward. And the wise lizard king.
Let me guess. That was the Buddha himself.
You got it. The Buddha himself in that past life.
Wow. Okay, so that connection really hammers home the idea, right? That these character traits, these tendencies like deception, they can carry over. It's not just a one-off.
Exactly. It's presented as a deep-seated pattern in that individual's journey. The Brahmin's tendency towards deception wasn't new.
And to really drive the message home, the Buddha repeats that verse, doesn't he? The one the Lizard King said.
Yes, exactly. He recites the same verse, questioning the point of having matted hair and wearing a deer hide if your insides are full of, well, defilement, of negativity, and you only focus on cleaning the outside.
And the text explains the verse further.
It does. It clarifies that it's questioning why someone would bother with all the outward signs of being an ascetic or monk, the robes, the rituals, whatever, if they still have greed, hatred, delusion, these inner defilements running rampant inside.
It uses an analogy, too, right?
Yeah.
Something about dung.
Yeah, pretty graphic one. It compares it to cleaning only the outside of a pile of elephant or horse dung. It really makes you visualize how pointless it is to focus only on the surface appearance while ignoring the inner corruption.
Yeah, that paints a picture. And what was the impact of the Buddha telling this story?
According to the text, the impact was profound. It says many listeners attained what's called stream entry, which is a really significant step in Buddhist spiritual development, and others reached other stages of understanding too.
So the story really hit home.
Clearly, it suggests that these themes, hypocrisy, inner purity versus outer, show these are things that resonate deeply. They can actually spark real insight and inspire people to look at themselves and the world differently.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the key takeaway seems crystal clear. This ancient story, the deceptive Brahmin, the wise Lizard King. It's just a powerful reminder that hypocrisy isn't exactly new.
Not at all. And that what truly matters, in the end, is our inner state, our inner goodness, not just the face we present to the world.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how often we might encounter or maybe even, present misleading appearances in our own lives.
For sure. You see it everywhere. From, I don't know, someone putting on a really charming front to hide their actual motives.
Or making grand promises they have no intention of keeping.
Exactly. Or even just filtering our lives online to show only the good stuff. It's all a version of cleaning the outside, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it really begs that question. What truly defines a person? Is it the image they craft, the matted hair and deer hide, so to speak?
Or is it their inner landscape, their values, their intentions, how they act when maybe nobody's watching?
And maybe more importantly for us, how can we work on cultivating that genuine inner integrity and maybe get a bit better at discerning the true character in others, seeing past the surface?
Big questions. And for anyone listening who wants to dig into the source itself, the text again was KuhakaBrahmaṇa.
Yeah.
It offers, the full context for this really insightful narrative.
Definitely food for thought. Ultimately, this deep dive kind of encourages us all, I think, to look beyond that surface, to maybe question what we see sometimes, and just continue our own explorations, digging into what truly lies within ourselves and the world around us.